Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronia, and today I want to talk about how you can actually start to live within your means without feeling so cheap. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this video today is because a lot of people will come to me asking me, I know I should be living within my means, I know I shouldn't be living beyond my means, I know I should be saving money, but how can I actually do this without feeling so cheap and having to scrimp every single time? So the first tip I would give when it comes to actually living within your means is to actually understand why you really want to live within your means in the first place. Now, the reason why I say this point is because I find that with many people, the problem isn't the fact that they should know they should be living within their means, because it's pretty self-explanatory and you probably know that you shouldn't really be living above your means as well. But what I've seen is that a big problem is that many people don't actually understand what that essentially means for them. So what on earth am I talking about? Well, it's like when parents tell you that you should be saving money at a young age, but they don't actually tell you why you should be saving that money in the first place or what you're going to be working towards. And the same when it comes to things like retirement, when the government is trying to tell you to put money towards your pension, because they haven't really explained why that's important and why you need to do it and what you're going to be working towards, you're less likely to do it because you just don't think that it really matters, or you maybe think that what they're trying to get you to do just doesn't really apply to your own personal life. And this is exactly what I'm saying when it comes to actually living within your means, because if you don't actually have a reason behind why you want to live within your means, then what would be the point in you actually doing it? So I would really be asking yourself, when you're talking about living within your means, what does that actually mean for you? And if you did start living within your means, then what's the positive impact that you will actually get out of that? And how is that going to benefit your life overall? And once you actually realize why you're living within your means, and because you have specific goals that you want to achieve, I find that that's really where you'll then start to think about being a bit more conscious when it comes to things like your spending, so that you're not actually overspending, so that you actually live within your means. Because let's not lie, when we're talking about actually living within our means, what we're really essentially talking about is making sure that whatever actually comes out of our bank account is less than what we're currently putting in. So for example, let's say that you're currently living above your means because you're always overspending, and what that essentially means is that you are using debt to finance your lifestyle. So what you would really need to be questioning is, if I want to live within my means, that probably means that I want to get out of debt. And then you want to be asking yourself, why do you actually want to get out of debt? Is it because you no longer want to be making payments to these creditors? Is it because you're not able to sleep very much at night because you know that if anything was to happen, like maybe you lost your income, you wouldn't be able to afford these payments? Is it because you really want to guarantee yourself a strong financial future? Really start thinking about all of these questions, because this is going to help you when it actually comes to either paying off your debt or even just really focusing on your spending, so that you're not actually racking even more debt in the future. Now, if things like creating financial security for yourself is something that you've really thought about, but you're not really sure how you can actually strive for it, then definitely check out my free guide, where I talk about the steps that I took to not only start working towards financial security, but also financial independence as well, so that I can basically work towards having the option or the freedom to really do what I want. So definitely check out my free guide if you haven't already. I will of course link that up here for you and in the description below. But ideally, what you want to be focusing on is just understanding, what does actually living within my means mean for me, because it's going to be different for every single person, but also how is it going to benefit me in the future? And once I've got that, that's when you can really start to think about some practical steps that you can really start doing to make sure that you are actually living within your means. Now, the second way that you could potentially start living within your means without actually feeling cheap is to create a spending plan that actually prioritizes your savings and investments, but also at the same time allows you to still spend your money. Now, again, the reason why I say this point is because the problem that I see is that a lot of people think that you should literally just be scrimping and saving, and that's how you should be living within your means, and that's basically it, and you will essentially become financially secure in the future. Whereas for me, I feel like a misconception is the fact that just because you are living within your means does not mean you should not be able to spend your money. But essentially what you want to be doing is actually learning how you can maybe prioritize some things, but also making sure you create a balance, so that you're not only focusing on your future self, but you're also living for today at the same time. Now, am I saying that you should just be spending your money on whatever you like and then that's it and forget about everything else? Of course not. What I'm saying is that you really want to start thinking about how you can actually create a system and a spending plan that allows you to be able to have the best of both worlds, where you're able to actually start putting money towards whether it's your savings or paying off debt or your investments, but then you're also able to actually start spending your money so that you can also enjoy the fruits of your labor as well. Because let's not lie, obviously we do work and we do make money, so you don't really always want to be thinking about hoarding everything and not actually enjoying the money you've earned. Now, yes, when I'm talking about creating a spending plan, what I essentially mean is creating a budget. Again, a common misconception is the fact that people think that budgets are really there for you to just be restricted and you shouldn't really be able to spend your money. But what I really want you guys to understand is when it comes to actually budgeting and creating a spending plan for your money, you just really want to be planning out your expenses and actually telling your money what to do and where to go. And I'm not going to lie to you, you probably won't know if you're actually living within your means or maybe living above your means until you've done a budget, because until you realize the difference between how much you're actually spending versus the income that's actually coming in, you won't necessarily know whether you're actually living within your means or maybe even living above your means. Now, another problem I see is that people actually do have a budget, but when it comes to actually sticking to their budget, that basically flies out of the window. And so what you will find is that even though most people have a budget, they are still actually living above their means. So really what I'd be asking right now is, when it comes to actually living within my means, why am I not able to actually stick to my budget? Why am I not able to stick to my spending plan? And what is actually the core problem here? Because clearly the problem isn't the fact that you don't have a budget, because you do, but there's probably going to be another problem. So for example, is it because of the current budgeting method that you're using isn't currently great for you and it's not perfect for you? So do you need to maybe experiment with other budgeting methods? And I do actually have a video where I talk about different budgeting methods that you can actually use, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. I will of course link that up here for you and in the description below. Is it maybe due to your mindset and behaviors around budgeting, so you don't actually understand why you should be budgeting in the first place? Or maybe it's just something that's maybe not important to you, or is it for any other reason? And so what I would really be doing is really asking myself, how can I actually make a spending plan and budget that really works for me, so that I can prioritize the things that I'm working towards, but then also I can be able to enjoy my money at the same time. So even though I am living within my means, I'm not actually having to do that on the cheap. Now, the next tip I would give when it comes to actually living within your means without really living cheap is to really identify opportunities where you can actually save money without having to cut back. And what I'm talking about is actually looking through your expenses and finding opportunities where you could potentially get a better deal. So for example, when it comes to things like insurance, you could potentially save hundreds just by actually looking through a comparison site and actually trying to get a better deal. The same thing could be said for your phone contract or any utility bills. Just by putting in a little bit of time to maybe go on the comparison website and actually switching providers, you could potentially save a lot of money. And what that essentially will mean is that you don't have to then spend as much money every single month or every single year trying to pay for a certain expense, because you've been able to get the best deal possible. Now, the reason why I made this point is because sometimes there are some misconceptions when it actually comes to saving money, where people think that you should really just always be cutting back and basically be living on rice and beans for the rest of your life. And that's essentially how you should be living within your means. But what I'm saying is that yes, there may be times where you actually want to cut back on some of your spending, particularly if you find that you maybe impulse spend or maybe you overspend. But at the same time, there are ways that you could potentially save money where it's more creative and you don't have to actually do that much work, but you could essentially save hundreds of pounds or dollars just by making the right decision and just by actually being a little bit creative when it comes to actually finding good deals. Now, being aware that when I'm talking about finding good deals so that you could potentially save money, ideally these are going to be expenses that you actually want to spend money on and that you probably would have planned to spend money on in the first place. If it's something that you don't necessarily need and you don't really care about, but you've decided to buy it because you just want to impulse spend, then that's a whole different story. So really understand the differences there. Now, the next way you could potentially live within your means without actually feeling cheap is to start tracking your spending if you haven't already. Now, obviously I've already spoken about actually planning your spending to help you live within your means, but another way you could potentially start actually improving on this is to also track your spending as well. And what I mean by this is, once you've actually made your budget, let's say that you decide to make your budget at the beginning of the week or the beginning of the month, by the end of the month, have you actually tracked and understood how your budget actually went? So what you really want to be finding out is, when I actually made this budget at the beginning of the week or the month, was I able to stick to it? And if I didn't, where were the areas that I actually ended up overspending? And the reason why I say this is because with a lot of people, they may be able to tell you what they currently overspend on. So maybe it's with food or maybe it's with clothes. But if you were to ask them how much on average do they actually end up overspending per month and how much that is actually over their dedicated budget, then some people may be staring at you with blank faces because they actually don't know. And so what I'm saying, when it comes to actually tracking your spending, really understand what exactly is coming out in terms of your expenses every single week or every single month, so you can basically find out opportunities opportunities where you can maybe save a bit of money, or you can actually eliminate it altogether. So for example, there may be things that you're actually subscribed to that you've been subscribed to for maybe months or years on end, and you've never even really used it. So almost just kind of doing a cleanup and a clear audit to understand if there are things that are just not meaningful anymore that you're still currently paying for. By tracking your spending, you'll definitely have a lot more clarity, and you'll be able to think about ways you can actually improve your spending as well. Now, this is something I cover deeply in my private one-to-one coaching program, where we really go through in detail what your expenses are and find opportunities where you can actually save much more money and make sure that you're living within your means every single month without fail. So if you're a woman and you're currently working, but you find that you struggle when it comes to things like overspending and actually being able to save money and start creating a system for yourself, definitely check out my coaching program to see if we might be a good fit to work together. I will of course link that up here for you and in the description below. But ideally, when it comes to actually tracking your spending, ideally what you want to be doing is for you to understand where the money is flowing out, and with that money that's flowing out of your account all the time, is it something that's maybe necessary or something that you probably just want to get rid of? The next tip I want to give you when it comes to living within your means is to actually start thinking of ways that you could potentially make more money. Now, this is really where you want to think about maybe creating a side hustle, maybe you want to start selling things online, or even focus on increasing an income in your current job. And the reason why I say this is because you may also still want to be increasing your lifestyle, but at the same time, you may still want to live within your means and still be able to prioritize your savings and investments. So a way that you could potentially do that is actually by increasing your income, so that you can still increase your spending a little bit because you've increased your income, but that's not going to prevent you from actually saving and investing for your future as well. Now, I do already have a video where I talk about ways that you can actually increase your income, so whether that be in your current job or whether that be creating a side hustle. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. I will of course link that up here for you and in the description below. But again, guys, I would always stress that when it comes to actually increasing your income, you need to make sure that you have actually set up your financial foundation first, because if you have not been able to manage your money first, all that's going to happen when you increase your income is you're going to fall into lifestyle creep, where essentially your expenses then increase but your savings and investments don't. So make sure that when it comes to actually increasing your income, you're also working on how you can actually manage your money well first, so that by the time you actually end up making more money, you can increase your lifestyle, but you can also increase your savings and investments for your financial future too. Now, the next tip I want to give when it comes to living within your means is to actually start practicing gratitude and give if you haven't been doing that already. Now, this is an interesting one, and you guys might be thinking, what has that got to do with living within your means? But guys, I will let you know that the minute I realized that I just need to be content with where I am and actually be thankful for what I currently have, particularly if you're maybe living in a Western country and you actually have a lot of opportunities, then you're more likely to be grateful for the current lifestyle that you have and the money you have. Now, I'm definitely not saying that you should not be trying to improve your lifestyle at all and that you should always be in the same position. Definitely not. But what I'm saying is that really appreciate where you are currently at, so that you can realize that you just need to walk before you can run, and you can take your time to actually really build wealth. Because remember, Rome was not built in one day. So it's really important to just appreciate where you're currently at, be thankful to God and be content with everything, and then also still think about how you can actually improve your lifestyle without having to live above your means by using debt to increase your lifestyle. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what other tips would you give to others to actually help them live within their means. I post regular content weekly, so if you would like to know more, then definitely subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next week.